Grace and peace, everyone, and welcome, watch enthusiasts. This is Time Measured. My name is DK, also known as Javid, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the SEIKO SPB203. However, before I begin, I'd like to make a brief but important commentary on watch dimensions, and in particular a dimension that I rarely hear anyone ever talk about, including watch enthusiasts and even watch brands. Now, the common dimensions of a watch that are mentioned are 1, the case size, 2, the case thickness, 3, the lug width, and 4, the lug-to-lug length. However, since I purchased this watch, I realized that there's one dimension that I feel is equally as important that doesn't get mentioned at all, and that is the actual dial diameter. What do I mean by this? Well, let's take, for example, the SEIKO SPB203, an iconic watch with a 38mm case size. However, if you measure the diameter of the dial, you will get a measurement of 31mm. Now, I purchased the SEIKO SPB203 as a upgraded alternative to the SEIKO SPB203. Now, the case size is 39mm, so I thought it would wear very similar to that of the SPB203. However, when I compared the two, I could see that in terms of how they wear a lot different. Now, the SPB203, as we know, is 38mm, and the SEIKO SPB203 is 39mm. So it's only 1mm larger in case size. However, when you wear these watches, they wear a lot different. The SPB203 wears more like a 40 to 41mm watch. Why is that? Well, it comes down to the dial. The dial measurement on the SPB203 is 34mm. So that tells me that sometimes the case size of a watch does not always dictate whether the watch is going to wear small or large. Now, I was expecting the SPB203 to wear more like the SPB at 38mm, and I thought, well, at 39mm, it's only 1mm larger than the SPB, so it should wear very similar. But due to the larger dial size, that's what makes this watch wear larger. So as for me personally, from now on, I will always be considering the dial size of a watch and mentioning it in my reviews going forward. Let me know what you guys think about the dial dimensions of a watch. Is it worthy to mention? Does it matter? I think it does, and I think it's equally as important as all the other dimensions of a watch that most are commonly mentioned when doing reviews. Now, just as a size comparison, I have also brought out my Orient Sun and Moon. This is a 42mm case. However, the dial dimension is 38mm. As you can see side by side, the watches look very similar in terms of size, despite the SEIKO SPB203 being 39mm watch. Again, due to the dial size, it makes the watch wear a lot larger than it actually is. Now let's get into the review. We're going to start with the dial, and the dial is probably the most excellent part about this watch. First thing off the bat, if you take a look at the dial closely, you can see that it is nicely textured with a hemp leaf pattern, and it makes the dial very elegant. You have a nice black dial, you have silver indices, you have the word SEIKO at the 12, Presage automatic at the 6 o'clock. You have a nicely framed date window at the 3, the hour and minute hands are nicely polished, as well as the second hand. And the way this watch looks in light is absolutely incredible. You have a nice flat sapphire crystal. It does not raise at all above the bezel. This watch is also loomed, and we're going to take a loom shot just now. As you can see here, as expected, the loom is very strong, and you have loom pips at the indices or hour markers, and the hour and minute hand is loomed as well. As usual, Seiko never disappoints in the loom department. In the light is where this watch really excels. You can see the beautiful hemp leaf pattern and the shine that the edges bring is absolutely mesmerizing to look at. So as mentioned earlier in my commentary, the dial dimension on this is 34 millimeters. Now getting into the case, we have a 39 millimeter case. We have an 11 millimeter thickness. You have a 20 millimeter lug width. And from lug to lug, you have a distance of 47 millimeters. It's a stainless steel case. As you can see here, the bezel is nicely polished. And then of course, the reason why this is called sharp edge is you can see the nicely sharp edge on each of the corners of this case. And the way it plays off the light is something greatly to behold. You have an open case back displaying the movement. Now the movement inside of this watch is Seiko's caliber 6R35, which beats at a 3 Hertz frequency and giving you a nice 70 hours of power reserve. So just taking a look at the second hand, you can see that sweeping at 3 Hertz, which is slightly slower than a smoother 4 Hertz beat. Looking at the crown, you have a beautiful signed crown that is easy to manipulate and hold. You have a diameter of 6.7 millimeters and a crown thickness of 3 millimeters. The winding action on the crown is very smooth and no issues at all with winding. In terms of the date change, the date changes right from 11 p.m. and you will see the date window shift at the 12. So as compared to some Swiss movements where you have where the date snaps right at 12, you will see the date changing from 11 o'clock and finally changing over at 12 within that hour. Taking a look at the bracelet, again, 20 millimeter lugs. You have a beautiful bracelet that does match the case of the watch, and it's a combination of both brushed and polishing. On the sides, you can see that it's been polished. And then on the sides of these links which are solid. You have a nice brushed look, and the middle links are brushed as well. And then on the sides of the middle links, they are nicely polished, looking beautiful once it's hit by the light. You have a nice signed buckle by SEIKO, a nice well-milled clasp. You can see the detail of the edging here. Solid links, solid end links. The links do articulate well. And one thing I can say about the design of this watch is you can see a lot of the Grand SEIKO DNA and aesthetics creeping into SEIKO's newer models, and this is no exception. What I like about this watch is that it stays true to the Presage line. SEIKO makes excellent dress watches, and this is definitely a great alternative if you are a fan of the SEIKO Sharp. And I think where SEIKO hit a home run with the Sharp is in the case size at 38 millimeters. And this is 39 millimeters. This watch will wear more like a 40 to 41 millimeter watch. So here's a wrist shot from the clasp, rolling up. And there it is. Looks great on the wrist. In terms of style and performance, this is an excellent dress watch. One you can definitely be proud to wear on the wrist, and it looks very elegant. It's very versatile. It can function as your everyday watch, or it could be your one-piece watch collection. It has great wrist presence. The bracelet end case is covered with SEIKO's Dia Shield coating, which only time will tell if it really works in terms of preventing scratches or dings. In terms of value, this watch cost approximately $1,200 Canadian. However, you can get this watch anywhere between $900 to $1,000 on the gray market. One thing I forgot to mention about the buckle or clasp, you have 2 micro adjustments. Taking one last look at the watch. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review and commentary. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to make any comments or suggestions. And until the next one, take care.